So, you ever tried to spray dark finish on a project and have it look like poop? I know how not to make it look like poop. And if you want to learn how to not make it look like poop, keep watching. So, has anybody ever asked you to spray something dark for them? Just say no. Just say no, it's not worth it. But if you want to figure out how to do that, then watch this video, because I'm going to show you how I go about spraying all this stuff and how I prep everything, and I'm going to give you 10 tips on how to make a better finish when you're spraying darker finishes like this one right here. You know the difference between a full joint and a starving joint is? Look at that right there. Can you believe it? It's starving. Is this a hungry joint, or what the hell's the deal? What happens when you push really hard when you're sanding on dark finishes? Man. Oh, man. Look at that. Say, Jimmy, you ever seen a grown man naked?
What?
We're going to go over all that and more coming up soon. So let's watch the video. So we're going to talk about putting more good or better things on there, and there we go. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in a minute. All right, number one, when you're spraying dark colored finishes, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you've finished sanding everything to 220 and that it's well sanded. Make sure you sand the tops, all the roundovers, everything with 220. Make sure it's super smooth the best you can, because you only get one shot at sanding this before you put a dark color on it. And dark finishes are the hardest to make look good, because they show up every little imperfection there is. So make sure you sand everything with 220. Including this, 220. You want to sand everything with 220 before you even think about putting on a first coat of finish. All right, there we go. So now that we're done with number one and we've sanded everything perfect, number two is make sure you check your sanding. And the best way to do that I know how is by using a light like this guy right here. You can also use the sun or any lamp or anything. What you're going to do is you're going to look into the light and make sure that we don't have any dings, scratches, pressure marks, planer marks, glue, anything, starving joints, which we'll go over in a minute. All right, so check it with the light. Make sure that everything is sanded properly and that you have everything dialed in. Once you start spraying, if something's not sanded or rounded over and you're spraying dark colors like this right here, you basically got to sand through it, strip it, or start all over again. And that's a waste of time. So use a light to double check and make sure that everything is well sanded. All right, use a light. Okay, so now for number three is make sure that all of your glue joints are full of glue. I know that sounds strange, but when you're spraying dark finishes, like I'm spraying here, you got to make sure that all the glue joints are full of glue. Don't use putty, use glue. And I'm going to show you that right now. Here we go. All right, so if you look at this joint here, this is a good joint. All right, that is full. So the glue joint is right here, and that's the way it should look. Okay, here's another. The joint is right here. You can see that. That looks pretty damn good, right? See that?
Oh my goodness.
That's what I call a starving joint. Right there. You tell the difference between a starving joint and a joint that's not. See that? You can't even see it. So with darker finishes, you really got to pay attention to what's happening with your glue. Okay, that's pretty good, but that little part right there is starving. You're starving for glue, and that's what dark finishes do. They'll just soak right in, and you'll have a crack where you don't want one. All right, so a little tip. Gluing up doors and drawers, especially when you're doing cope and stick like this, before you sand them, make sure you check all the joints. Make sure you don't have open joints or like little gaps where your cope and stick come together in the end grain. And everything that looks like it has a little bit of a gap into it, I'm just filling the end with glue. The reason I'm doing that and not puttying it is because putty is kind of porous and won't fill in the gaps the same way that glue will. So as I was talking about sanding with 220, really well sanding and checking it with the light. Sometimes you can even miss it with light. You can see, hopefully you can see that. There's a line going all the way down. There's a little bit of planer chatter like in here. You can see the grain a little bit better here. And that's because it's a toe kick and I didn't sand it that well. They're not as well sanded as the face frame. Let me show you this face frame here. There's a little bit of a difference. The face frame is sanded more, still sanded just with 220, but I didn't spend that much time on the toe kicks because they're toe kicks. So number four is make sure that everything in your shop is covered when you're spraying dark finishes. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with everything in your shop you don't want, the color you're spraying, that color.
What?
So cover everything in your shop that you don't want, whatever color you're spraying. All right, because it gets everywhere. So number 5 is, when you're spraying dark finishes, no matter what it is, if it's water-based polyurethane or catalyzed lacquer, do not sand between the first and second coat. Just spray it. And then sand with 320 and Scotch-Brite pads after that. And the reason you don't want to sand between coats is you want the base coat to be as thick as possible, because it's super easy to burn through dark colors like this. All right, number 6. So number 6 is when you're spraying anything like face frames or doors, always start with the inside of the face frame first and work your way to the face and then spray the outside last. And that all has to do with not getting yourself covered in blue or black or green or whatever color you're spraying. So we're going to start away from us and work our way towards us. And we're going to spray just like this. Here we go. And always wear a mask. Don't do what I'm doing right now. We're going to spray the inside first. And here we go. Always wear a mask. Don't do what I just did. But there you go. Sprayed. And remember, 2 coats before you sand. Otherwise, you're gonna burn through everything. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, you ready for number 7? Number 7 is that anytime you have doors or drawer fronts or anything like that that has panels in it, make sure you pre-finish all of your panels. Because if your panel moves, you're gonna have a white spot in there, and that's not good. So that's the first part of this tip. The second one is always start with the back. Just like belt sanding, the reason you do that is to get the feel for how your gun's spraying and the pace that you need to have. And if you screw it up, it's the back and it doesn't matter that much. And the other reason is for that is that no matter how many coats you put on it, when you start with the back, you're gonna end up with the front being up, and that's what you want. All right, there you go, 2 for 1. All right, number 7, awesome. All right, number 8, always spray the edges of the doors and drawer fronts you're spraying, no matter what side it is, because the edges and the sides always take the most abuse. And it's better to have more coats than not enough on the edges of doors and drawer fronts or whatever else you're spraying that's two-sided. And I've never heard anybody complain that you have too much finish on the edges or the bottom or the top of a drawer or door. So always spray the edges. It's a good thing. All right, there's number 8. Okay, number 9. Now for the sanding. I know, boring. All right, so we have some 320 I fold up like this into thirds. I have some Scotch-Brite pads. I have the very fine right here, which are the maroon color, and the ultra fine, which are the gray. And they come in a pad like this. I just cut them in half. Just easier to handle. So here's what it looks like ahead of time. You can see the grain. All right. And you want to sand it lightly. So we're going to sand it as light as possible with our 320. Just barely hitting it, trying to knock off all the little high spots. Because, and if this gets gummed up, just wipe it on a towel or something, that cleans it off. There's another tip for you. All right, lightly sanding. So we're just trying to take the high points of finish off. All right, and we're gonna come back with the maroon, very fine Scotch-Brite pad, and we're gonna sand it like that, just a little bit. And this takes practice. You know, that's why you always start with the back of something if you can. All right, that feels pretty good. Now we can do the final wipe down with the ultra fine. And there is a big difference. I wouldn't go from 320 to the ultra fine. I would actually use the maroon pad first and then the gray, because it really does help. All right, and we wipe it down with a cloth there. Let's see if we can get it in there. You see it now? You can see some grain in there, but it's not too much. All right, well, there you go. That's how you go about sanding dark colored finishes. So you're gonna do that very lightly, gingerly. Don't want to hit it too hard. Remember, you're using the sandpaper just to take off the high spots and the roughness, and then you want to come back with the maroon, all right, take it down a little more, and then finish with the gray, and then wipe it down with a clean rag. It comes out beautiful. All right, number 10, ready? Here's a drum roll. And number 10 is, number 10. Here it goes, the last one, yay. The corners of face frames where the stiles meet the rails are always where you find sags, drips, waterfalls, whatever you want to call them. it's always a mess. So I'm going to show you a little technique I do right now to prevent that. It doesn't always, because I still get them, but this helps a lot, especially if you're spraying catalyzed lacquer, because it dries a little faster, and I'm going to explain it right now. So start and stop. We're going to come here and we're going to spray right here, right? And we're going to stop. All right. Do not continue from the same corner. Start at the opposite corner, start, and stop. Okay, stop when you get to the corner. Then you start at this bottom corner down here and you work your way up here. And then finally you start over here and work your way back this way. I've already sprayed this a couple seconds ago and it's a little bit drier than if you were just to keep going around in circles. When you pull the trigger, it seems like more fluid comes out right away than when you let off the trigger and it stops. It just seems that way. So my theory is if you start down on the bottom and you spray to the top, and then if you were to start spraying here again, you're gonna get a blob of finish and it's gonna run. Doesn't matter where you start as long as you go to opposite corners after you sprayed. So up to here, stop. From here to here, stop. Down here, up to here, stop. And then start over here and then stop here. Okay, that's when I'm just doing a single face frame. All right, so on this side, when we're gonna do the raised panel part, we're gonna start in the middle, and we're gonna spray all this shaped part right here from the stiles and rails. So once all the inside is sprayed, then we're gonna work on going straight up and down, and the next time we'll go straight across this way. Okay, you ready? I had to put the mask on because we're gonna make a mess. So there's some other things you can do also. You can turn your nozzle so it's spraying at what I call 90 degrees, so it's spraying like this. So we start here, and you see that? Look at the size of this damn thing. Help. All right, everybody, well, there you go. There's my 10 tips on how to get a better looking finish when you're spraying dark and solid color finishes. All right, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Now we're gonna blow you out of here. Ready, go.
Subscribe now.
I think my hair did something strange. It's got some finish in it and doing something weird. This is my hair light. It's my anti-hair light because I ain't got none. I don't know what's up with my hair. It might have too much blue in it. I'm a blue-haired gummer. All right, let's try that again. All right, number 7, which is the 5 with the peace sign. Peace, man. Number 5. Number 7. Number 5 of 7. 7 of 5. All right, number 7, which is 5 with the peace sign. Stop starts. Start and stop charts. So when you stop and start your charts, you got to watch it, you know. So when you got to watch your start and stop charts. I started and I started and stopped. All right, everybody. Around this little, whatever this is called right here, this thingamajigger-bobber on the thingamajigger. Your start and stop charts. Start and stop charts. I started and stopped just before I shart myself. Oh.